Well, I suppose for historical sake, I'm going to put this in my own words, putting it on both of my channels right now, spreading it around as much as I can. It seems like we are in the midst of Armageddon. And it seems like we have no choice but to go through Armageddon. Today's date, mark it down. It is the 23rd of February, 2022. This is a Wednesday night Pacific Standard Time. I'm recording it on there. And it's about 7 o'clock at night, Pacific Standard Time. The UN is having an emergency session with several of its key members going on the argument and the attack with each other, including the United States and Russia exchanging words regarding the Ukrainian situation that basically Putin has put the world into a hostage situation. By maneuvering his troops all across the Ukrainian borders between Russia and Ukraine and ratcheting up all the military force that he can possibly muster. I mean, right now in the background, you're hearing CNN with commentators Wolf Blitzer and a couple, Fareed Zakaria and the other gentleman I don't know of. But they are talking about what's happening across the seas and how it's going to be affecting us a great deal one way or another. We have already gotten, the United States had already departed one particular war we had started 20 years ago, roughly. When our country got attacked, September 11th, 2001, we had terrorists from different countries, mostly from the Middle East anyway. Try not to get into any kind of lawsuits here, but over the seas, shall we say. And when we found out who was the mastermind and we went after him, it took us several administrations and a while to get him. And our special forces did nail him and killed him. And then his body disappeared. Right now, Don Lemon from CNN is on, and he's saying he's announcing a special military operation to protect Donbass. This is Putin trying to protect his ass and his assets, and they're making they are making that kind of determination in the UN Security Council right now. We had gotten out of a war months ago after we had nailed our chief planner and architect who did the dastardly deed on September 11th. We found ourselves in a situation in Afghanistan of trying to make sure no one other will be coming after us. That there be no infrastructure coming after us in a way, shape, or form. But we had left a lot of collateral in one form or another. And now we seem to be finding ourselves going into Europe with what troops we have stationed in there as part of the NATO alliance for the defense upon our NATO members. Ukraine had yet submitted anything to be part of that. And when they had, that put us into a defensive mode where we had to get our assets maneuvered into different NATO countries bordering Ukraine. So we'll be in a position to help whatever we can. But the thing is, I don't know if we're going to be doing any counter invasions or any counter attacking, if any. But make no mistake, we're not going to be lying down on a damn job either. Right now, in the next several hours, it's going to be touch and go whether or not if Putin's going to be making the call of ending anything and everything that we have for peace. And this is scary. So I'm going to put you on pause while I get some more information. It started. What you hear right now is one of the reporters in CNN in Kiev, Ukraine. Matthew Jans. So here it comes. Clarissa Ward. CNN. Very ugly. I'm gonna. Put this down a bit. I'm keeping the volume down. Back in 1990, when first Gulf War started up, we were trying to keep Saddam Hussein, or Hussein, from taking over a smaller country that actually had oil reserves, rich oil reserves. And he claimed it for Iraq. He had taken months before an international coalition headed by the United States to get him out of there. They called the build-up Desert Storm, and then the action Actually, Desert Shield was the build-up. Desert Storm was the action. And watching it on CNN as it unfurled for the first time of what warfare looked like. So every time there was like combat action happening live on television, I would watch this. It's terrifying, to say the least. Now, how this will affect us a great deal. Economic-wise, it will screw up the damn finances, not to mention if Russia decides to pull out any cyber attacks on us, that we're going to be feeling it one way or another. And the infrastructures that we depend upon for our lives are going to be threatened. The market's going to be fluctuating like crazy. Prices of oil and food will be going skyrocketing. Besides the inflation kicking in, it's not exactly all the inflation; it's everything else. And right now, the reporter out there in Kiev is trying to report of how terrified he is of what he's listened. He's never heard combat before. The other reporter they had, another part of Ukraine, also have been through combat many times. She's experienced, and she's even gets frightened a little bit, but she's not as rattled as this particular guy. So, yes, it is. Yes, it is a bit unnerving seeing a reporter put on a flight protective gear, such as a flak vest and a helmet. But because they are in an area where they don't need it just yet, he's just trying to get his regular gear on. But he is still scared as hell. How am I feeling watching this miles away in the safety of the country? Is how close we are to global. And it's not the nuclear blast I'm worried about. It's what happens inside our country if we do have sleeper agents ready to rock and roll. I know that all of our internal security departments of our government have already been on full alert ever since that Putin decided to roll his military and rumbling up towards Ukraine and does the bully boy routine. That's how he did with Crimea, and with some boisterous statements that he made, and with a show of military force, realizing that nobody else was going to be throwing anything at him except maybe spitballs. He managed to obtain Crimea. And now he's doing the same thing with a hell of a lot of forces to scare Ukraine to surrender, because Putin came from a time of the Soviet Union When I was born in the tail end of the Cold War, where the Soviet Union was still active and still a threat. Still our major number one, China number two. And we've had major, we had major, and it was scary as hell. Okay, now they're going to be hearing from the Russian side here. Let me see. Turn this up. Sorry. Frederick Fodkin. Put this on pause. Sorry, while somebody's trying to do the political statement concerning about what's going on. I remember watching the first Iraq War, and that was scary enough as it is, and then the second war was bad enough anyway. But, seeing this right now as it is, knowing how this is going to be affecting our infrastructure and everything else, I just don't know. And I'm expecting to see something similar to what I'd seen back in 1990. So we may or may not get signal loss. We may get signal screw up. I don't know. But I just wanted to get this damn thing on record. Maybe in one essence, I'm glad that Ma and Dave aren't alive to see this. And what usually terrified the hell out of me is living close to an airbase and realizing if there was one missile launched from somewhere aiming to cause enough fear and panic, if they somehow bypassed Los Angeles or Southern California, got into the desert, and did a complete hit on an airbase, either Plant 42 or Edwards, I don't know what I would be doing at that point except probably going through a lot of clean shorts and making them into victims one way or another, because there wouldn't be enough shorts to be surviving as clean shorts. Seeing this, I'm kind of surprised I'm holding it in as much as I can. But I expected Putin to do something. On the other side of the world, it's just about dawn. It's about 5:30 in the morning in their time. 5:30. This has to happen right now. This has to scare the living crap out of people. And this is making my stomach churn. I may do another video, but I wanted to get this out of Putin actually firing the first salvos. Of course, we haven't seen on camera any explosions, mushroom clouds, or anything. Just the booms. And why he would pick a morning to do this, I don't know. But apparently he's quite mad in doing this. I'm going to have to turn this off for right now. I'm going to have to do another one shortly.